might want to avoid the highway. However, if you're not in a rush, you might want to be there.
If you've been here on the channel, then you probably have seen that video. I'm calling it a cinematic office B-roll, and it's currently one of my most popular B-roll sequences that I've made here on the channel. And at the recording of this video, it has around 480,000 views, which is totally insane. I never thought it would get that many views because like we shot that video in like 4 hours, and then I edited that video the day after, and then when I published it, I thought it was going to do well, but not this well. And since you guys enjoyed that B-roll sequence so much, I actually dug up the old archive files and thought that, you know what, why not do an editing breakdown of that entire sequence and show you all the different things that I did in that sequence so that you can apply that to your own work and maybe do something similar by yourself. And if this is your first time watching it, then you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button because, you know, that'd be appreciated. And I would suggest for you to get your favorite beverage of choice. I'm gonna use this to sip on when I feel a little bit tired, so that I can like, speed boost, and then we can just continue. But yeah, let's dive into the edit. So the first couple of clips in this sequence was shot with the 85mm and the 24mm G Master lens, and I wanted it to be like a little bit of introduction to the character, and that is when I used the 85mm, and then I wanted to show off the environment that we were supposed to like have the entire sequence play out in, and that is when I used the 24mm. And I played it back at normal speed and wanted to feel as much like movie-like as I possibly could do and not have any kind of slow-mo or anything like that. And I also wanted to make the color grading feel very dull, very boring, and very like mundane, and make it feel like this is just a regular day, nothing fun is gonna happen, everything is just gray. And then the next clip, we jumped up to 100 FPS to be able to slow things down when we wanted to, and I actually used a couple of keyframes here as well so that I have the opportunity to make the movement of the hand a little bit more epic. So we started out at a scale that was 120%, and then as the hand is moving closer to the camera, as the speed is like increasing, that is also when I'm zooming out to give it like a slight feeling of a vertigo shot so that the hand is like moving closer to the camera than it actually was, basically. And have the clips side by side, you can see that even though it's a subtle change, it does make a difference to the end result. And in the beginning of the next clip, I wanted to time the speed of the first clip. So I played the like beginning of this clip back at 100%, and then I slowed it down to 25%. And I also used keyframes in this clip as well, so that it starts out at 118, and then as the clip is going, it goes down to 100, so that it basically zooms out and gives us like another camera movement on top of the one that we filmed. I also used a whip pan transition that makes it look like everything is going out of focus, you're moving the camera upwards, and when you speed that up and time it with another clip that is doing the exact same movement, then it's gonna be an almost seamless transition. So looking at this frame by frame, you can see that here is going up, and then bam, we're switching to the second angle that we wanted to use. And then in the beginning of this clip, I sped it up and then slowed it down while the paper was in the air to give it a more impactful feeling of that when he throws it up and then slams it down, it's gonna be feeling more like epic than it actually is. And then at the end of the clip, I sped it up once again and also tried to time the movement of his hand smashing the paper so that in the next shot, it's gonna be the exact same movement, but from another angle. And that helps to like hide the cut that we're doing because we are cutting on the movement of our actor in this case. And the next clip was so incredibly hard to do because like I wanted to get the shot of Jonas slamming down the paper and then go behind the monitor all the way over to the pens and then back as he's signing the paper. And that was like a really painstaking process. I don't think we did a bunch of takes on that one. But since we shot everything in 100 FPS, we had the possibility to slow things down and make them look a little bit more epic in the final result. So in the beginning of this clip, it's moving a little bit faster and it's also zoomed in to 135%. And moving frame by frame, you can see that it gives us this like almost a vertigo shot once again, because we are zooming out as Jonas is moving closer to the camera. And by doing this, it actually makes it feel like the movement is bigger than it actually is. So playing this back, you can see right here that I'm not moving the camera as much as the final result makes it seem, but when we're keyframing, it looks like I'm moving a whole lot. And then as you can see here, there's this gray area on whenever I'm doing any kind of speed ramps, and this is to be able to smoothen out the speed ramps and make them look like they're actually like fading in and out, and not just like something that you turn on or turn off. And that is really important when you want to make smooth looking shots with your edit, basically. And to be able to get this shot in focus, what I did was that I set the focus on the stapler, and then I knew what kind of distance that I needed to keep to the stapler when Jonas was grabbing it and lifting it up. And in the beginning of the clip, we're playing it back at 100%, and then I slow it down to 25 to make it feel more epic when he's like opening the stapler. And I also wanted to time the opening of the stapler to the music and the beat that we had on the actual sequence. And the reason that I do that is because it usually gives you a more like epic feeling, and it gives the entire video a little bit better flow all the way through when you do that. But you shouldn't like get used to only time your cuts to the beat of the music, because sometimes you can just cut wherever and still look good anyways. So in this clip, we did the same thing. I set the focus on the end point, and then we moved back and Jonas was slamming it down, and I let it play back at 100% in the beginning and then slowed it down to 27%. And instead of adding like a handheld shake effect, I actually slammed the camera into the table, which gives us this like super... It's not something that I recommend you do, because slamming your camera into the table is not good for your camera, especially if you have a camera with IBIS. This shot is probably my favorite in this entire sequence because I think it looks so cool when it's like spinning the scissor like that. And we had a lot of like wondering or thoughts or like trying out trial and error when like how he was supposed to spin the scissor to make it look the best way. So in the beginning of the clip, I sped it up to 117% so that it feels like the scissor is coming in fast and then slows down as it's passing the camera, basically. And then another thing that I did on that clip was that I played around with the keyframes of the scale once again. So I both adjusted the position and the scale of the clip. So it basically starts out at 129%, and then during the entire length of the clip, it goes back to 101%. So it basically gives us this feeling of that the camera is moving away from the scissor while still maintaining focus of the scissor, which is pretty cool and actually kind of a neat trick to use when you're shooting a lot of stuff in manual focus. For this shot, I use some keyframing off the scale as well, so that it feels a little bit like a vertigo there as well. So it starts out at 145% and then ending is around 100%. So it goes from being a little bit zoomed in and then zoom out at 100%. And then I use the same technique on this clip as well. Zooming in starts at 149 and then moves all the way down to 100 when the clip is ending. And to be able to set a keyframe, you just set the keyframe here and then drag it down all the way to the end of the clip and set another keyframe. And again, same technique used on this clip as well to make sure that it feels like the camera is moving slightly backwards and revealing more of the shot. And then I adjusted the speeds of the clip so that it would feel like everything was going in one take, but we increased like the speed when the paper was going out of frame, and then slowed it down once again. And what we did with this clip was that we set the focus and everything for this particular scene, and then we started recording, and then I moved the camera back so that when we jumped into post, the only thing that I did was that I played that in reverse and then adjusted the speed of the clip so that it would feel like the camera was moving in towards the node instead of like going back from the node. And I also used a couple of keyframes in this clip as well to make sure that it feels like it's going like a little bit of vertigo shot in this too. And if you want to hide the use of keyframing your scale off the clip, then a really good way to do that is to do that when you're doing any kind of speed ramp. So looking back at this, you can see that when the clip is going a little bit faster, that is when I'm zooming out. And then when it starts to go slow again, that is when it's back to its original size. And then as for the last two clips, we just shot it manual focus and 25 FPS and had the same exact color grading as we had in the clips before. And thinking back at it, we probably should have shot all the clips with this kind of color grading straight away, because we actually shot this the last thing we did when we shot the sequence. So we had to rig everything back as it was supposed to be, and yeah, it was kind of like painstaking process, but you always learn something, right? Yeah, there you go. That is exactly the way that I edited that sequence. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up, because that would be highly appreciated. And if this is your first time watching me, then you might want to consider subscribing, because I would love to see you here in the next video. And yeah, that is gonna be it for me and the editing breakdowns. And I will probably drop one more video before I go on vacation. I'm not entirely sure. Peter from Sweden. Goodbye.